Alright, and hello everybody, I'm the SweetBro27, and welcome to another Dokkan battle video. We have another good one for you here today, another head-to-head combat sort of thing. We have the full power Super Saiyan 4 Goku from the Tanabata celebration, up against Sword of Hope Trunks from the Worldwide Download celebration. Now, these characters, on the base surface, they don't really have anything to do with each other. Sword of Hope, he's a character who fits very well into, like, slot 2. He's a defensive stacker, he gets, like, massive amounts of attacks, does a lot of damage, whereas the full power Super Saiyan 4 Goku, he's more of a slot 1 option who is just able to tank everything. But they both have very powerful standbys that utilize the same standby mechanic, meaning when you run them on the same team, sometimes you'll run into a situation where you will want to have Sword of Hope and Oob come out at the same time, and that's not possible. You can't have both of these standbys going on at the same time. So this is kind of like which character is better, which character is more consistent. So that's kind of what we're rocking with here today. Both of them, I'm running them on slightly different teams. On the right is where Sword of Hope is. He will be utilizing Vegeta and Trunks for the leader for both of these runs, whereas I actually changed the run, or the team, more differently for the full power Super Saiyan 4. And you'll kind of see why once we get into the Fusion Zamasu run, which will be our second run through. This was a good event, I thought, the Red Zone just base Zamasu, because of the type coverage of the character. During the first phase, when it's just Zamasu, it is an int character. Then once he transforms and you get to phase 2, it is then a tech enemy. So both of these characters actually have type advantage in one of the phases, something that I haven't really been able to do in some of these other showcases. So I feel like that's pretty fair. And you can see over here on the right, we have a pretty favorable opening lineup here. We can get the revive super easily on this turn, and on the left, you saw that we just died, meaning that we were jumping back in with the usage of items and support memories, and we had a really bad opening rotation. Over there on the left, we have two 23rd World Tournament Gokus and Power Awakening Piccolo, which was actually someone recommended me to use Power Awakening Piccolo on the 23rd World Tournament team, which is something that I never really thought of. I know that's stupid, but normally when I think of Orange Piccolo, I think of running 2 Orange Piccolos, and not necessarily just running one on a team. So thank you, whoever commented that. Thank you, you were acknowledged, and I do appreciate the advice. So on this turn, again, we're a little, it's a little dicey. All the characters are guarding on this rotation, though, but all these characters kind of need to get hit, so, it's kind of a trade-off. So speaking of hit, let's really quickly talk about the standbys and how they activate. Now for the full power Super Saiyan 4 Goku, he has to get hit 5 times, and then you can transform into Majub, who then you need to collect a certain amount of key spheres, and then once you do that, upon entering the next attacking turn, you're able to transform into the Limit Breaker Super Saiyan 4 Goku, or if you don't obtain enough orbs, you just get like a full heal or something, and then you transform back into the base form Goku. I have yet to see anybody fail to transform into the full power Super Saiyan 4, myself included. I have never not gotten the good transformation, so I don't know how common that is, but I feel like with the orb changing and everything, you're guaranteed to get it. Whereas for Sword of Hope, it is his 5th turn from his first appearance, which is something that I hate. I hate. That happens so late into some of these events, and I know I say that, but you'll watch these showcases. I don't get Majub much sooner in a lot of these runs, much to my surprise. It was actually more difficult to get 5 hits in the runs that we are doing than I would have expected, so I'm going to give some credit where credit is due to Sword of Hope. It's not as inconsistent as I thought, but he is a character who you kind of need to keep on rotation. He's not like Future Gohan. Future Gohan, I find that you're able to like safely float him a lot more, just because he gets the massive amount damage reduction on an 18-key super, whereas you look at Sword of Hope, who stacks defense on his 18-key and can get upwards to 30% damage reduction, but the 30% damage reduction isn't always consistent, and I'm someone who normally gets a lot of normals. So once you just get a bunch of normals, A, you're not doing a bunch of damage, and then B, you're also not getting that damage reduction. Or, if you're also unlucky, he launches a billion additionals, does a ton of damage, and then you just kill a boss before all these other characters have time to get built up. The full power Super Saiyan 4 Goku is an example of this. He's a character who has to get hit 5 times. So if you kill the enemy before he can get hit 5 times, you're immediately hindering that other option. And you're seeing there over on the left, we're actually getting the standby recovery. I love the GT duo. and all of these runs that I've recorded, I did these in a much closer succession to each other than normal. Normally when I do these, it's over like the course of a week. I'll run the same event over and over and over and over again. I did all these runs within a like 48-hour period. The GOKU runs actually were able to do back to back, mostly because you'll see I did a little bit of link leveling in between. When I was doing the Trunks run-ons, I did not actually have this character link level 10. So I was able to do keys. I did a YouTube short and a TikTok for that, where I was able to get a couple of Heroes characters, like an old, what was it? It was the Goten and Trunks side banner unit from a long time ago. I got them link level 10, so that's pretty cool. Also, I did a lot of summons off screen for the New Year Step Up banner, and I got Kid Trunks, or not Kid Trunks, Kid Goku, who is quickly becoming one of my favorite units just ever. This character is he's closer to 2 years old than 1 year old, on JP at least, which is kind of insane. But even at, I think I have him at 69%, he is remarkably good. Like, I actually can't believe how good this guy is to this day. He's one of the better units I have in my box, and I love using him. He's used during all the runs that we do through here. So I guess we could also kind of talk about the teams that we're using right here. For the Trunks side, we are mainly utilizing a Future Saga team. So we're utilizing Mai, who is a phenomenal support unit. She's a scouter. She's essentially Fasha with like a weaker version, not Fasha, Chilai. She's a weaker version of Chilai, whereas Chilai just has 70% dodge regardless. Mai has to land her super attack on an enemy to get that, but she does have a scouter if you have a full future lineup, and I believe you have to be under 70% HP, which isn't too hard to do, especially since these events are rather hard. We have Future Gohan, obviously. We're utilizing the GT duo on both teams so that we can get the revive standby, which isn't reliant on Trunks or the full power Super Saiyan 4. You're able to do that standby regardless, just because it utilizes a separate mechanic. And you saw over there that Mai unfortunately failed us, and she did die, so now we're having to dive back in. But we're diving back in with items, so it doesn't really matter too terribly much. And speaking of dying, this is something that I kind of wanted to mention real quick while we're still kind of in like the early stages of this video, because you can look at the time. It's going to run almost to an hour. Should I do these runs at like 1.5 times speed or 2 times speed? Because sometimes I watch what's going on, sometimes I don't, because there are things I want to like mention to the viewer. So I can't really pay attention to everything all at once, and my eyes kind of have to bounce back between the two runs all the time. So sometimes I'll miss something that I wanted to point out, like on the Super Saiyan 4 side, because I'm paying attention to Trunks. Should I do it in 1.5 times speed, or should I do like the second run through where like when I'm using items, should that be 1.5 times speed? Or if like the full power Super Saiyan 4, if they die really early on while the Trunks run is still going on, should I do the remaining of the Trunks run so we can get to the next event faster? Let me know down in the comment section below. How can I improve this showcase series? Because it is one of y'all's favorites. These videos normally do very, very well. So thank you for that. I have a lot of fun doing them, because they're just little fun experiments. Like, this game is all about experiments at the end of the day. You know what I mean? There's so many things you can do, but we kind of get a little complacent, I want to say, where, you know, we get like these top 10 characters in the game, and a lot of times we don't really go back and really analyze what some of these other characters are capable of, or showcasing what other characters can maybe do. So let me know, how can I improve the series? Let me know down in the comment section down below. I love when you guys interact. So let's just quickly start paying attention again. So we did get the revive on the left. So now 23rd World Tournament Goku, he is in God mode, and we have Orange Piccolo on the same turn with him, and Future Gohan. Now Future Gohan on the run on the left, I don't know why, but he was taking a lot more damage this run than I was expecting him to. Even with all his damage reduction up, I guess he wasn't getting a lot of his like future links activated, but you'll see here in a minute, I'm pretty sure he takes like 20,000 on a normal after doing multiple additionals. It kind of blew my mind, and I'm uncertain as to why. The only thing I could think of would be the links. So if that is the case, please let me know, because I thought Future Gohan was kind of more like an LR Bulma, where it could fit on any team. Now, granted, I only think he has Fierce Battle. No, he double-digit tanked. That must be a different run I'm thinking of. But there are times where Future Gohan does actually take damage, and it surprised me, because this is the only time I can remember in like recent memory of Future Gohan taking damage. So now we're on turn 6, and you can see that we still have not been hit 5 times, something that I genuinely could not believe with the full power Super Saiyan 4. there's so many characters that have to get hit, and this is one of the reasons why I hate characters who do just like a ton of damage, and it's why I'm slightly more combative of Sword of Hope than maybe a lot of other people are, is that there are characters who have to get hit, so you want to go through these events slowly. But there are so many characters that just do immense amount of damage, it can become quite difficult. One major example of a unit who I actually quite love is the DBZ duo. Now, they are a character who defensively can easily get frauded out unless you're in their standby phase. They have one of the more powerful standbys in the game to this day, I believe. I don't know, I could do an experiment with that. If you wanted me to come back in and do a showcase with like the SSJ3, SSJ2 Vegeta up against Sword of Hope, I could do that because their standbys are very similar. Or anything like that. Or if you have any other combats you want me to do, let me know down in the comment section down below. I kind of lost my train of thought of what I was talking about. Oh, wait, I remember. Characters who do just a ton of damage. So that is a character who, like, stacks defense, but they do just so much damage. They have, like, the 50% chance to crit. You just kill the enemy by, like, the second or third time you see the character, which is a problem because they don't have guard, they don't have damage reduction, they don't have dodge. The only thing they do to build up defense is stack, which is problematic. And then you can throw on, like, GOKU. GOKU needs to get hit a bunch of times. So what happens when you don't get him hit 6 times, and then it's on turn 5 and he no longer is guarding? Well, then you're kind of frauded out, I'm afraid. And that character has to get hit 9 times to get fully built up offensively. You have other characters like the DBZ intro, Int Gohan. He has to get hit 10 times. No, it's 10 times for him to get his additional super, which doesn't really help that character too much, but that is just another thing you have to think about. The GT duo, if they get hit 4 or more times, then they can do the standby without having to be below 50% HP. Like, a lot of characters have to get hit to get something. 23rd World Tournament Goku is another character who has to get hit 10 times to be fully built up. There's so many characters who have to get hit. Then you have a character like Sword of Hope who just does a shit ton of damage, and then, all your characters aren't fully built up. And even if some characters don't necessarily have to build up, like a character like God Goku, he's a character who just stacks offense and defense, but he has guard and dodge. So once you kind of get later into an event where guard isn't necessarily enough, if you don't get him any defensive stacks where he may be able to eat a normal after, you know, launching 2, 3, 4 stacks and getting some additionals in or whatever, if you don't get him built up at all and you're floating him, well, then you come into the problem that, well, that's really unfortunate. God Goku, who could have potentially lived an additional normal, did not. So that's kind of where, like, my hatred of this character comes from. It's not even hatred. I'm not hating on the character. I summoned for him for a reason. I would have much rather have gotten Bulma, but, like, I'm not complaining that I got Trunks. Trunks is a good unit. I am not a Trunks hater, unless we're talking about the Tech DFE. I will hate that guy till the day I die, unless he gets, like, an easy A or something. I've yet to see any footage of that character being impressive. He's a terrible side-banning unit. Right now we're in his celebration on Global. The celebration kind of sucks. Just not a fan of that character. Anyway, just had to get that out of the way. So we have Orange Piccolo's Giant Mode over here on the left, one of the more powerful abilities in the game. And again, this is one of the reasons why I don't really think of Orange Piccolo outside of using him on his own team, because the Giant Mode transformation is turn 3 with 2 or more superhero category allies on, I think it's on the team, it might be on the rotation, I'm not entirely sure, or just turn 6. So that's why we're using this so late into the fight, which actually works out in our favor because we ate 2 supers because, Zamasu and Goku Black are an enemy who can double super on a turn, and you saw there, they were doing some pretty decent damage. One thing that I do like about giant transformations is that you can kind of gauge how much damage a character would take with 0 defense. So yeah, tight and neutral, they're doing like almost 1 million normals. I had to guess, because Orange Piccolo, even in that giant transformation, he has like 90,000 defense, I think. So we're now on this rotation. We don't have any reason to fear that we're going to be dead. It's just a matter of who do I put in slot 1. I end up doing God Goku, or not God Goku, 23rd World Tournament Goku, who I did get a dupe in. He's now 69%. And even from 69%, from 55%, my 23rd World Tournament Goku, I have seen a massive, massive, massive increase in his power. That as well, someone in the comments section recommended that if I'm using 23rd World Tournament Goku, I should be using my Revive not to better the team, but to improve 23rd World Tournament Goku. So essentially what they told me to do is that, like, even if you're in a situation where it doesn't benefit you to revive, still revive anyway. That way you don't have to worry about 23rd World Tournament Goku frauding you out ever. Which is something I didn't really think of, because most of the time when I think of using a standby, or I guess not a standby, a revive, is because I took a lot of damage or whatever, save the team. But someone in the comments recommended just, like, sometimes putting yourself initially or, like, intentionally in danger's way. So once you're able to actually do the revive, then 23rd, you don't ever have to worry about 23rd World Tournament Goku being a fraud. He'll be guaranteed guarding, he gets those extra stats, and it will be easier to build him up. So that is something that I have kind of taken to heart. A lot of these runs, I am getting really good RNG with where the the GT duo have been landing. They've been landing on slot 2 for most of these runs. So turn 1, I'm able to take a ton of damage, and then turn 2, I'm able to stand by, recover, and get a fresh start on turn 3, which is great. So you can see there, speaking of recoveries, or not recoveries, revives, we have the GT Spirit Bomb over on the right, and we're actually wrapping up this fight over on the left. So I don't think we even got to see Majub, let alone the full power Super Saiyan 4 Goku during the run on the left, but he was still very impressive. We got to see some very nice tanking, although we also did see him take like 500k, 600k on a super attack before getting built up, because the full power Super Saiyan 4, he's a character who has to get hit once, and then he's kind of good for the rest of the rotation. I forget what it is exactly, but I'm pretty sure it's 70% defense and 20% damage reduction once he gets that first hit in slot 1. Now, he is a character who kind of has to be in slot 1. He's not like Vegeta and Trunks, where it's the first couple of turns they guard in any slot, and then after that, you know, they only guard in slot 1. He only gets his massive amount of damage reduction and extra defense in slot 1. So if you ever float him, put him in slot 3 outside of like the Majub transformation, you're going to kind of get frauded out defensively. And there's the kit that we have for him. He's just 55% at the moment. But even at 55%, I have been enjoying this character. And as of the YouTube short and TikTok I made, he is now Link level 10, which is awesome. So we're going to really quickly snap the Sword of Hope footage here into the middle, and we can fully focus on this. Now, Vegeta and Trunks. You may be wondering why I'm running Vegeta and Trunks over Future Gohan on a future-based team. So the main problem with the Future Saga when it comes to my box is slot 1 characters. I don't really have any slot 1 characters in my box on the Future Saga team, and off the top of my head, I can't really even think of any outside of Vegeta and Trunks. So Vegeta and Trunks, he is on a 200% leader skill with them. They are still one of my favorite units in the game. They're so defensive. Mine dodges like he's UI Goku. Like, I swear, he always dodges. I very rarely do I get sold out by Vegeta and Trunks. So yeah, they dodge everything. They have one of my favorite active skills as well. It does a ton of damage, and then it gives defensive support to the whole rotation. They can reliably go into slot 1 and easily get built up, or I can kind of play with them around. Like, you'll see in a future run, there's no attacks in slot 1, so I'm able to actually put Trunks into slot 1 so he can get some defense before he gets hit by a big attack, which is something that I kind of despise about this character too. He's a brand new summonable unit, and against Fusion Zamasu, who granted is one of the hardest fights in the game, and there are plenty of other characters who I defend up and down who take 300, 400k on a normal for that. This is a brand new type advantage character who's taking 180 on average in that event, which is really, really not good. So this is the penultimate turn, I believe. So we're doing the Sword of Hope transformation. It's just whether or not where do I want to put each character. I believe I put all my faith in Mai and put mine to slot 3. But I guess we can go ahead and talk about the standby. This standby is amazing. If you're able to actually get to this point in the fight, he does a trillion damage, and he cannot die in slot 1. So he becomes a slot 1 unit that like the future team really needs. Again, I was just talking about how there's not a good slot 1 unit. You get to this guy, he cannot die. I don't know if I would say he's tankier than Oob, because Oob also has a nullification and stuff, and Oob is much more like reliant on type orbs as opposed to just rainbow orbs. Regardless, this guy, he cannot die, and he launches like 5 or 6 additionals. No, we actually win on this turn. I remember I used that Whis when I did not need to. I was very afraid for no reason here, if I'm being completely honest. I was kind of afraid Mai would sell me, but even if Mai got hit by a normal with the 40% damage reduction, I'm pretty sure we still would have died. But just look at the amount of damage. This is a 55% unit we're looking at. That was a 10 million with a crit. I believe this is also a crit. It's not... I can't remember all these runs. Again, these were recorded much like closer together than normal, because again, normally I do these over the course of a week. But yeah, that is what, number 4 supers in a row. And at this point in the fight, because again, you get this is turn 6. This is super deep into a fight. At the point when you get to this stage, doing damage actually matters. You know what I mean? At this point, your characters should be built up, or if they're not built up, guess what? You need to protect them. So again, let's just say, hypothetically, we have God Goku on the team, who hasn't gotten any stacks. if we have God Goku in slot 3, do we want to risk him taking a normal when, you know, he doesn't have any defensive stacks? Or do we want to kill before we even get to God Goku? That's kind of like the flip that happens once you get late into a fight, or like the second phase of a villain, boss, or whatever. The second that you get to the phase where like your character should be built up, it's either the characters who are built up, they're gods, or you got to do a ton of damage to protect the characters who aren't. And that's why I like really like this Trunks. Okay. Again, I will say he's situationally good. He has sold me a lot. In these runs, he actually does a very good performance. But if you go back and look at some of my other videos, it is kind of a shame how he performs at the 55% range. Again, at Rainbow, he could be phenomenal. I don't know. I personally don't know. I have seen footage where he is a god. I've seen footage where he frauds people out. The normal consensus is that outside of like Fusion Zamasu, he is very good, and like, you know what, I can agree. And even in Fusion Zamasu, he is like a very viable unit. He doesn't have very many restrictions, so you can throw onto a bunch of teams, which again, I have done. I'm not like a hater of this character. I just would have wanted more from him, if that makes sense. You know, I'm so critical because I wanted him to succeed, because he is such a hype unit. You know what I mean? Also, speaking of hype units, this Int Gohan, who I also got during my New Year's step up, he's great too. Like, he's a really good EZA. I would argue he's probably better than AGL Zamasu just from the couple of runs I've used him in. He's great. And now we're rocking up against Fusion Zamasu. So we made a couple of amendments to each team or whatever. We're now running the God Goku team over on the left with Kai Goku, Pat the Power Kid Goku. I forget what other units we're running on there. And then on the right side, we are also running God Goku and 23rd World Tournament Goku, I believe. Oh yeah, we're running the Super Saiyan 4s on the left-hand side, that's right. Because they have type advantage during the start, and they are also another really good damage dealer who have a lot of versatility with their active skill transformation into Gogeta. This is a character who I would actually argue, like, aged rather gracefully, which is super scary to think about, because they're going to EZA in like a year, you know what I mean? So if they are still being able to, like, competently compete in like this stage of difficult content, how much harder is the game going to get in literally 1 calendar year from now? Because they're probably going to EZA, because think about it, let's be real, Evolution Blue and UI are going to EZA this year during the celebration. Where do we go from here? Like, we're complaining about how hard Fusion Zamasu is. The new fights are going to be a billion times harder if they're going to have to contend with him and the gods. Like, they have very similar kits. I am a little apprehensive, although that maybe means we'll get a lot more powerful characters, which also is a little bit of a shame, because that means we'll get like another wave of power creep. I just hope we don't get power creep again like the 7th anniversary, which was fun, because this account that I have is much younger than like my old one. So I didn't really have to build up a box nearly as powerful as I used to. I've been playing this one since right before the 6th anniversary happened on Global. So even though, you know, like the 7th anniversary power creep was a thing, this account wasn't old enough to really like feel the hit of it, and I was able to build up rather quickly. You know what I mean? But yeah, no, I'm kind of worried about 10th Annie, which is also so crazy to think about. 10th anniversary of Dokkan, man. That's going to be insane. It's not, let's be real. What do we think 9th Annie is going to be? Beast MUI or Beast and Gogeta? I think it's probably going to be UI just because of the Miraculous Awakening theme that I'm kind of sensing, but I don't know. It could be Movie Heroes because they did show the Battle of Gods and ROF Blues at the reveal trailer thing. So anyway, I'm just rambling. We now have Kai Goku, another character who I've grown on a lot. I used to be very firm in my belief that they were worse than Vegeta and Trunks. Now I think they're kind of on par, maybe giving the edge to Kai Goku just because of the beam nullification with this stage in particular. So, we're in a kind of an awkward position here where we need to revive immediately. I did take 23rd World Tournament Goku off the team, so the revive doesn't necessarily mean as much. It's just a start over. But the reason it's kind of awkward is because, like I said earlier, Kai Goku is a character who has to get hit to build up. And then these guys, obviously you want to be launching supers with them so that they can get their permanent damage reduction. So always having to do the revive on turn 2, while it is good, you go into turn 3, completely refreshed, and you do a bunch of damage, you're now in a situation where none of these characters on the rotation really get built up. I believe Kai Goku just gets hit one time, and that's it. No stacks for God Goku, no defensive stacks for Kai Goku because he does stack defense on his 18 key. Nothing for God Goku, which is super lame. But we get the revive off, we're doing a ton of damage, and now we can look over here on the right. We have Sword of Hope on, what is this, turn 1, I believe. Yep, because we are also doing the support memory. This is a pretty fun little support memory, even though for some reason Gohan has, like, a comedically large head. I don't know if I'm the only person who thinks that, but, like, hold on. He's going to show up here in a second. But I don't know. I feel like his head is comedically large. It could just be the angle. I don't know. There's something just wrong about, like, how his face is oriented on that art. I don't know. I'm probably weird for thinking that. But yeah, now we're showing why Vegeta and Trunks are so solid in slot 1. They just easily pop them in there. We are going to drop an item here because I know for a fact that the GT Duo, before super attacking or anything, this AoE, I believe it does 386,000 damage. I run this event all the time, so I'm pretty familiar with the amount of damage things do. And there's my Vegeta and Trunks, you know, just dodging all the time, because that's all they ever do. Or is that my Vegeta and Trunks in that slot? I wasn't paying attention. My Vegeta and Trunks always dodge, just saying. Go back and look at any video, it's just dodge central 24/7. So we have full power Super Saiyan 4 Goku eating a super here, which isn't great, but that's really good tanking, alright? I'm just saying, they had the, that was the very first attack of the turn, but we had the, on the 18 key, he raises defense for 4 turns. So I can only imagine if we had not gotten an 18 key in that last turn, we might have actually died this turn. We have a lot of links activated with the 4s, and I don't think we got the 7 orb support with Path to Power Kid Goku. We might have. Again, I'm having a hard time bouncing back and forth because I'm trying to pay attention to one thing and then another. There's just so much going on. Although I hope that these videos are kind of good for the sense that they have, like, rewatch value. I would imagine if you were a viewer, you would, like, the first time you watch it, you would watch, like, Trunks, hypothetically, because you want Trunks to do better. And then you could come back and you could look over here on the right, or excuse me, on the left, and watch the full power Super Saiyan 4 run. Or I don't know, maybe you just watch it once and you just do, like, your bounce your eyes back and forth like I am while I'm live commentating or whatever, or not live commentating, post commentating. I don't know. Let me know how you view these videos. Again, these are some of my favorite things to run. They're just fun little sandbox experiments, although they're kind of frustrating because of the daily limits. I can't wait for the power level update to come to global, because you can actually get 6 runs a day in these red zones, or 4 runs a day in the old ones. That is so good. And look at fucking Path to Power Kid Goku tanking like a god. He took double digits while the Super Saiyan 4s took, like, what was that, 40,000 something damage? It's just crazy. So now I'm having to make the decision of who do I want to build up. I did choose to do Kai Goku for 2 reasons. 1, that first attack could be a beam super, which it actually was. And 2, I need to get him a defensive stack. He is a defense character. This does 0 damage, by the way. Like, literally, it does 0. But he is a character who has to get built up, and he's not... It's kind of lame that he's a defensive character who has to get hit to build up. That's why he has guard at the start of these events or whatever. It's the same thing with, like, Vegeta and Trunks, but I think Vegeta and Trunks, again, I don't know, I like Vegeta and Trunks, they're great. Especially mine, who is, like, UI Goku, where they're not necessarily reliant on... Because they get incremental defense buffs every time they get hit, where, like, Kai Goku only gets his defense after he's been hit, I think it's 5 times, and then he gets his offensive after getting hit 9 times. And we'll actually get to see his more impressive offensive prowess. I believe it's on this run, or I don't know. Again, I do a lot of runs, even though I did these runs in, like, closer succession to each other than normal. I don't always remember. But this is a very good rotation. As you can see there, we have a Gogeta and slot 2 with 0 attacks, meaning that I'm actually able to keep them in their base form to get another stack. And I'm actually reading Oob's passive right here because I was unfamiliar with it, and I didn't want to do something silly and just kill the character outright for no reason. But we're able to get another stack here for the Super Saiyan 4s, which is good. The more stacks you're able to get with this character, obviously the better, because that means that they'll have extra defense once you transform with them, because this is normally the turn where they are, like, the most fraudulent. They have no guard. They don't have dodge or anything. We get the nullification here. This is so crucial for Oob, especially since you're going in type disadvantage. Even though Oob is so defensive. But look at that. He's taking damage post-super because Zamasu raises his attack on that super. That's really scary to think about, that Oob, who's, like, a super defensive character, it's like 300% defense at the start of turn, 10% damage reduction per type key sphere obtained. Like, that's crazy that he's taking, like, even though it's only, like, 27,000 damage or whatever. That should show you how crazy Fusion Zamasu is. We all talk about, like, the int phase. Not enough people talk about how crazy the physical phase is, because, like, dude, this physical phase, I will say it is easier, but that's partially because a lot of these characters who I have specifically have to build up. Whether that's, you know, they have to get hit or anything. So by the time you get here, you're a little bit more safe. So normally, I will say normally. But unfortunately, we get hit, and look at that. That's what I'm talking about. Characters not being able to get built up at all. And the orbs just didn't fall in a way for me to get them 6 key spheres. I was hoping we could just dodge, but 672 on a normal to God Goku. I mean, that's what happens, man, especially when I'm floating them on this team because I want to keep the SSJ4s on rotation just because they are a weaker character, but they link better. And obviously getting them stacks, I feel like they have, just because they have less defensive mechanics outside the guard for their first couple of turns, God Goku at least has dodge, so you can kind of safely float them around or whatever. But we're now on to physical Zamasu over here on the right-hand side, and we were able to save the revive, which is super crucial because it does so much damage to the Zamasu, meaning we also got a couple of stacks off with him, I feel sure. Again, I really wasn't paying too terribly much attention. But it'll do way more damage if you're able to save it, which luckily I was. If I recall correctly, we got the 4s on the, not the 4s, the GT Duo, we got them in slot 1 on the very first turn, so we had to float them, and we used a Whis to make sure that they wouldn't die, and they still took like 86,000 damage or something, but that's without any stacks of their offense. They do raise defense, but it's only for 1 turn, and that's without any of their damage reduction. So on this turn, I'm trying to put them into slot 3. That way, if the GT Vegeta is able to launch a super attack, it does make the Spirit Bomb so much stronger. As well as I would much rather have Future Gohan on this upcoming turn, because soon he'll be able to get his domain, and then the domain, A, he does way more damage, B, you could activate his active skill, NES type advantage. It's just, Future Gohan is a beast in this event, is basically what I'm saying here. So yeah, now we have the, over here on the left, not necessarily the greatest turn. We have the Super Saiyan 4s, the GT Duo, and God Goku all on turn 1. We have our Revive character, who obviously we would much rather see in slot 2, but we're able to just pop a Whis, and we're not going to take too much damage on this turn, thankfully. Even though with guard and 40% damage reduction, look how much, and type advantage, and they got a stack off. The 4s, again, I'm saying they're competent, but they're taking damage from the Zamasu, but that, I mean, that just happens. It's just how crazy this fight is, and just in general. But yeah, look at Future Gohan just doing a bunch of damage. And Future Gohan actually tanks this pretty well, if I remember. It's like 339 or something. Oh no, he just double-digit tanked. Wow. Again, there just must be a bunch of different runs that I'm thinking of in my head. That might have been a run that I was running for the Full Power Super Saiyan 4, because again, he was taking a lot more. Oh, I might have just got my numbers mixed up, because look at that, that was 339. I remembered the numbers, not the character. Okay, there we go. See, silly mistake. It happens. Again, since I do these kind of like removed, again, you know, you guys are probably tired of hearing me saying this, but even though I did these much closer to when I'm actually doing the post commentary, I do a ton of runs for these. Although, if I'm being completely honest, I only did 8 total runs for the Full Power Super Saiyan 4, and 4 of those runs you're actually seeing in this video because I got him to link level 10. I'm just going to be completely honest, so yeah, I got a little less footage with him, but that's just because I was so impressed with what he did as well, and I didn't want to postpone this video anymore, because he really showed up. Like, he is tanking all these really well, like, outside of the Fusion Zamasu run, where, like, he supered slot 1, turn 1, like, every single time. If you just get lucky enough where he can get hit one time, and then there's a super. There is a massive difference in the tanking ability of the Full Power Super Saiyan 4. But we are finally getting the Sword of Hope transformation again, and normally what that means is once you see this, you've won the fight. I don't actually think Sword of Hope is the one who deals the finishing blow, though. If I'm remembering correctly, we actually win on the next turn. Oh, no, we might have won on this turn. But that's another thing that I just have like a hard time doing. And I think it's crazy that I have a hard time doing this at 55%, is actually getting to do the standby attack. It's just entering the next attacking turn. But even at 55% or like 69%, 79%, a lot of my characters are not rainbowed. Some of them are at the end of each run. You get to see like what the builds I have. I have a hard time making some of these events last long enough for this to be like relevant, because we're just blitzing through this guy. We destroy physical Zamasu way quicker than we do in Zamasu. Now, in Zamasu does have its damage reduction, and if you do, I think it's less than 100,000 damage, that's when it becomes 0, if I'm remembering correctly. I may be wrong with that. I'm not entirely sure. But it's something like that, as well as, having the AoEs. It's hard to build up characters or whatever. Whatever. But, like, we're on, like, pretty late. We're on turn 5, so we did get the transformation as soon as we could. And again, he is phenomenal once you get into this transform state. Just so much damage. But you can do so much damage, actually, on the Sword of Hope itself. But it's kind of hard. Like, it's hard to see that. Like, once Omega drops, maybe it'll become a little bit more relevant. But even when I run this guy in the Sen Shenron event, I don't feel like I see it all too often. And something that kind of blew my mind is I didn't get the Oob transformation too often in my runs. I believe we dodged this. Yeah, we dodged. Okay. But yeah, this is the... Is this the last turn? Or do we... No, we do kill on this turn. So this is the final turn here. We do the really cool Future Gohan active skill, which is... This is peak. I know a lot of people wanted a Goku Black, myself included. But... This is so cool, and as you can see there on the left, I kind of paused for a moment. I was thinking, I didn't know if I needed to use a Whis on this turn or not, so I actually used both of my Whis items on this Zamasu phase, which isn't something that I really wanted to do. Obviously, I would have liked to have saved one, but I was afraid about the 4s and the back. I didn't know how well they would be able to tank, and I didn't even really know how well the DBZ duo, the GT duo would do in the situation. Let's look at that. That was 41,000 damage. Granted, that's with no guard, so if I didn't do the Whis, that would have been like, what, 160,000 damage? So I probably didn't need to use it, but better be safe than sorry in this situation at least, because I am floating them off, so that's going to be another turn that they aren't going to get any stacks off. And we're just hoping that we can get the Gogeta transformation. But yeah, we can see over here on the right, we are about to finish this run. I believe it's actually Path the Power Kid Goku who finishes it off, not Vegeta and Trunks. No, it is Vegeta and Trunks. Wow. Again, terrible memory. But yeah, so in just a moment after I showcase off all the units that we have and that we used, we will snapshot the full power Super Saiyan 4 run into the middle. So how did I feel that Trunks did? Trunks actually did pretty well in all of those runs. Again, in this event in particular, I don't feel like he did too much damage, nor did I feel like he took a lot of damage. We were able to get the Sword of Hope as soon as possible. He did not fraud me out in this run. God Goku... no, wait, that was on the other run. How did we die in the very first time? I wasn't paying too close attention. I mean, it happens. Every character has a potential to fraud you out. But the stars aligned. We were able to do a lot with what we had. And that second run through, especially being able to save the revive until the very end, incredible. God Goku did very well. Path the Power Kid Goku, who is like quickly becoming one of my favorite characters. Not gonna lie, he's just a shit ton of fun to use. And he's really good support. So yeah. I'm very positive I feel very positive about Trunks' performance. And now we are doing the standby transformation here. We now are into the Majube form. And we are just one turn away from the physical Zamasu phase. And this is actually where Path the Power Kid Goku gets a kill. Because I keep him on rotation rather than God Goku. Mostly because, A, I didn't know how well he would tank. But I would much rather prefer the support over a character who I really haven't been building up. So again, this is a situation where it's like I kind of have to guard the God Gokus who haven't been getting a lot of stacks. And that's pretty easy to do when you have 2 orb changers. Although sometimes they do conflict. I have noticed that Kid Goku and God Goku, sometimes it's impossible to get 1 7 orbs and 1 6. So you kind of have to pick and choose. And since this is kind of like a showcasey thing, I do actually have more trust in Kid Goku than I do 23rd. Why do I call him 23rd Platoon Goku? God Goku. My brain is all over the place, and I do apologize for that. But we get the kill, and we're now going into the dreaded physical Zamasu phase. But we are in a very good spot, because guess what? We also got to save the standby revive. So we launched the standby revive here. Then we're going to do the Kai Goku Spirit Bomb. And he is just like 1 hit away, unfortunately, from getting his extra attack passive. So the Spirit Bomb could have been way, way, way more explosive. There's nothing I could have done about it. I guess I theoretically could have saved the Spirit Bomb for another turn, but I needed to revive this turn in my brain. So I think ultimately I made the right decision. Since again, especially since I've been floating the God Gokus, I don't know how much defense they've been getting. I was actually so afraid that we wouldn't die this turn that I deliberately only give God Goku like 1 orb. I give this entire rotation like 1 orb. And another reason why I do that is because we have Gogeta on the next turn, SSJ4s. So all of those orbs right there, I intended to give to them. That way they could launch a 24 key. That way they could get their extra stats, or if I transform them, they would do that extra damage and get the guaranteed, or it's a guaranteed additional with a 50% chance being a super, I think is how their passive is worded, if they're at 24 key. Get the attack break, all that other good stuff. But yeah, we actually do die this turn. And look at this guy. I know this is with support from the Spirit Bomb, but a 16 million on a 55% Kai Goku. That is another reason why I'm starting to slightly grow on them more so than Vegeta and Trunks. While Vegeta and Trunks, again, they're perfect slot 1 like from the get-go, and I think they are the best defensive capable character I have on the Future Saga team. He becomes so explosive offensively and defensively. Now, his active skill kind of sucks, but again, he does have the 50% chance to nullify a beam super. So yeah, and we also did get the 2 attacks with Vegeta there. So this Spirit Bomb is going to do a ton of damage. And you actually saw why I was a little bit scared there. We took 3 attacks for this Vegeta to die. So if there was only 2 attacks in the middle and I gave God Goku dodge, that would have been my worst nightmare, entering the next attacking turn with like literally no HP. Now, in hindsight, was that super likely to happen? No, but even still, that Vegeta taking 200k attack or damage, honestly, I'm going to say that's kind of impressive tanking. I know that's kind of weird to say. I'm genuinely impressed with how little damage that did to him, because he only has like 73,000 defense. I know that's type advantage or whatever, but still, that's a little scary. But we're entering this next attacking turn, and we finally get to see the full power Super Saiyan 4, and you just right there saw all my hopes and dreams get crushed in an instant. The physical orbs got changed to int orbs, and then the int orbs got changed into rainbow orbs. So what was once a perfect field of orbs is now kind of like a bastardized field of orbs. So it's very scary going into this turn. We do have 3 very powerful, capable options, but ultimately, it's kind of really shitty how things landed out. So we are forced to turn into Gogeta here. But if we do enough damage, we are actually able to kill, because the full power Super Saiyan 4 does just like a shit ton of damage. Same with Gogeta, even though he is almost a 2-year-old unit, which is really scary to think about. Again, in just like a few weeks, he'll be 2 years old on JP. We have the support from all these characters. They link very well together. We actually get to launch the active skill, so that means they have guaranteed crits for the turn. A lot of things are looking up. It's just a matter of which orbs do I choose to give to each character. Because God Goku, or not God Goku, Pat the Power Kid Goku gives support with 7 orbs. And then Gogeta, he actually gets damage reduction. I believe he gets 8% damage reduction per Rainbow Key Sphere obtained. So it's a little dicey what we ultimately choose to do, but that's really good damage. And it all comes down to if full power Super Saiyan 4 Goku is able to tank. So we give him all those orbs here. And you see me kind of like fumble around trying to figure out what do I want to give him. I believe I ultimately choose the rainbow orbs on the left with the AGL key sphere, because that's a lot of rainbow orbs. Again, he gets some amount of damage reduction with them. And right there, boom, we were able to get the 7. So that is like pretty much almost perfect RNG right there. And you see here, we're launching, what is that, an 18 million? It's very tiny on my screen. 18 million, just a ton of damage. And this guy tanks so well. Again, he is probably one, like, if you're able to get to this transform state, I would say he's probably, like, top 3 in the game. It just takes a lot of fighting to get there. So now we have Gogeta with a 7.6 million. This is a guaranteed crit as well. And we get an attack break, which is awesome. So, boom, right there, attack break, 4 million. And we attack broke the wrong attack. We don't dodge it. We don't counter it. He does have a chance to counter. It's a 50-50. And we take almost 1 million damage. Yeah. So this is a loss. We did lose both runs against Fusion Zamasu. However, I'm not going to hold that against full power Super Saiyan 4 Goku. So how do I think he did? And how do I come out feeling about both of these characters? If anything, I feel more confident running both of them. Just maybe not on the same team. Both of them really impressed me with what they were capable of doing. You see here, I'm kind of flashing through them quickly because I was upset that we lost this run. But both of these characters really did impress me. I stand firm with what I think about Full Power Super Saiyan 4. I think he's a phenomenal slot 1 unit. You just can't get unlucky with him, which doesn't always happen because, you know, you can't control how many times the enemy super attacks. You can't also control where they attack. And that's a problem for both of them, because both of these characters can't really tank a super too well outside of certain conditions. Trunks can take a super, you know, if he gets his 30% damage reduction and has multiple defensive stacks. Whereas Full Power Super Saiyan 4, he can tank them very easily, assuming the very first attack in the turn isn't a super attack. They both have very good standby transformations, which take a pretty decent amount of time to actually get to. I was, again, impressed to see, it might have just been the events that we ran, but I was impressed that both of them very rarely transformed. Or when they did transform, it was turn 5, turn 6, or whatever. So I underestimated how easy it was to get the standby, or overestimated, I guess, for the full power Super Saiyan 4. I do feel very confident about both of them. I am very proud with both of their results of how they did. I felt like changing up the teams, I feel like they were a solid addition to both teams that I ran them on. So what do I think? I still think I prefer the full power Super Saiyan 4 at this current moment. But again, Trunks, he did very well. He does very well. I do feel like, unfortunately, some people think I am a hater of Trunks. I am not a hater of Trunks. If you go back and look at like so many videos, I use him in like all of them because he is so good. I just wish he was that little bit better. You know what I mean? There's just a few things about his kit that are just a little frustrating to use. But, so yeah, even though Trunks won both runs throughs of his, I'm ultimately going to say I still prefer the full power Super Saiyan 4. But with that being said, that's going to be all for this time, guys. I have been the Sweetbro27. I'm a variety Twitch streamer and an up-and-coming YouTuber trying to make it big in the world. I have a Twitter, a Twitch, and a TikTok, the links to which can be found in the description of this video. And while you're down there, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share me a comment. And don't forget to share me around. But yeah, that's going to be all for this time, guys. So as always, I've been the Sweetbro27, and I am signing off.